Pilots don't just disappear mid-flight, or do they? Today we uncover the shocking story of a real flight where the captain vanished, leaving passengers and crew in complete chaos. It started like any other flight routine, predictable. A crisp morning at Hong Kong International Airport. Passengers boarding a Boeing 737 bound for Bangkok. Among them were businessmen with tight schedules, tourists craving Thai beaches, and a handful of nervous flyers clutching armrests before they even sat down. In the cockpit, Captain David Lane, a veteran with over 18,000 flight hours, performed his usual pre-flight checks. His co-pilot, Michael Summers, fresh but competent, followed along, verifying the systems. The aircraft had been checked, the fuel was loaded, and everything looked perfect. Pushback, taxi takeoff, smooth as ever at 35,000 feet. The hum of the engines settled into a rhythm that lulled some passengers to sleep while others flicked through in-flight magazines. The flight attendants moved up and down the aisle, serving coffee and small meals. Nothing unusual. That was until Captain Lane got up from his seat. Co-pilot Summers barely noticed at first. Pilots step out of the cockpit all the time, stretch their legs, use the lavatory, and maybe grab a coffee. But then the minutes ticked by. 5 minutes, 10, 15, the door behind him stayed shut. Summers clicked his intercom. Captain, all good? No response. Maybe he didn't hear. He tried again, still nothing. He shifted in his seat, suddenly feeling the weight of the cockpit around him. The walls, the dials, the endless skies beyond the windshield. He turned and knocked on the cockpit door. Nothing. He called one of the flight attendants, a young woman named Lisa, and asked her to check the first-class lavatory. She did. Empty. She checked the business class lavatory. Empty. Maybe he went to talk to a passenger, she suggested, glancing nervously down the aisle. But no one had seen the captain. Panic didn't set in immediately. Not yet. Summers told himself there had to be an explanation. Maybe Captain Lane had gotten lightheaded and sat down in the passenger seat. Maybe he was just playing a prank. A weird one, but still a prank. Then Summers noticed something chilling. Captain Lane's headset neatly placed on his seat. He hadn't taken it with him. At that moment, air traffic control radioed in. Flight 702, confirm status. Summers cleared his throat, his voice steadier than he felt. This is First Officer Summers. We're maintaining altitude and course. However, my captain has left the cockpit and has not returned. A long silence. Then ATC came back, more alert. Repeat that? Summers swallowed. The captain is missing. The phrase felt absurd. How could a pilot just vanish at 35,000 feet? There was no way out, no doors other than the cockpit exit, no secret compartments, and yet he was gone? Lisa returned, shaking her head. She had asked every passenger. No one had seen the captain walking down the aisle. No one had seen him at all. It was as if he had walked into the air itself. Summers felt his hands fighting on the yoke. He was now the only one in control of the aircraft. He had flown solo before, but never like this. Never with a full flight. No backup and an unexplainable mystery unfolding behind him. The crew whispered among themselves. Was it a hijacking? Was he hiding? Did he have a secret second life, a reason to disappear? None of it made sense. HEC's voice crackled back in. Flight 702, do you require assistance? Summers hesitated. He had been trained for almost every imaginable emergency. Engine failure, depressurization, even terrorist threat. But no manual covered vanishing captain. I can still fly the plane, he answered, but I need help finding him. HEC instructed him to begin a slow, systematic search. The crew, now running on pure adrenaline, tore through every inch of the aircraft. First, the passenger cabin, then the overhead bins. Ridiculous, but at this point, nothing seemed ridiculous. The cargo hold was checked. The emergency exit doors were locked. There was simply no way he could be gone. And yet he was. Summers tried to keep his focus on the controls. The weight of the moment pressed on him. If something went wrong now, a mechanical failure, sudden turbulence, he had no one to turn to. He was alone. HEC then made a suggestion that sent a chill down his spine. Check the security footage. Of course, the plane had surveillance cameras in key areas: the cockpit door, the aisles, first class. If Captain Lane had left, the cameras would have caught it. Lisa retrieved the footage, her hands trembling as she scrolled back to the moment Lane had last been seen in the cockpit. There he was, standing up, adjusting his uniform, reaching for door handle, and then static. Not long, just 2 seconds of complete white noise, like an old TV losing signal. Then the feed resumed. The cockpit door was closed and Captain Lane was gone. Lisa recoiled. That's not possible. Summers felt his skin prickle. Play it again. She did. Same thing. He got up, reached for the door, static, gone. It was as if reality had glitched for a moment, just long enough to erase a person. By now, the entire plane was crippled in silent terror. The passengers didn't know what was happening, but they could feel it. The energy, the tension, the way the crew moved in hushed, frantic bursts, Summers knew he had to make a decision. They were over the Gulf of Thailand. He could continue to Bangkok as planned or declare an emergency and land immediately. HEC didn't pressure him, but their tone had changed. Do you want to divert? Summer exhaled. Affirmative. I'm not flying this plane another hour without knowing what's happening. He turned the aircraft towards the nearest major airport. The landing was smooth, remarkable, given his state of mind. When they finally came to a stop, emergency responders swarmed the plane. The passengers were evacuated, confused and whispering amongst themselves. The crew stayed behind. And then, the real horror began. The entire plane was searched from top to bottom. Every compartment, every crawl space, even the avionics bay. Nothing. Captain Lane was simply gone. Security teams reviewed the footage over and over. They slowed it down, enhanced it, looked for glitches, distortions, anything. But all they found was that impossible 2-second static burst. No official explanation was ever given. The airline classified it as an unexplained disappearance. Investigators ruled out hijacking, suicide, and even medical emergencies because there was no body, no evidence he had ever left the aircraft at all. Sadly, to this day, Captain David Lane's disappearance remains one of aviation's strangest mysteries. Pilots don't just vanish mid-flight, or do they? See you next time.